Turning around the lives of sex workers is a challenge in many countries around the world. Here in Zimbabwe, 30 former prostitutes have entered a program that aims to give them a healthier and financially secure future. This gardening project in the central city of Gwiru is being held up as an example. Many countries in Africa face the ongoing issue of migration. Many people leave rural areas for cities in the hope of a better life. Cities such as Gwiru, Zimbabwe's third biggest city. Loveness is a prime example. She came to Gwiru to find a better life, but with only a basic education and no qualifications, her dream was shattered.
Since I came here to look for a job, I did not manage to secure a job. So there was no other means of getting money besides going for commercial sex work.
To support her parents, feed her children and rent a modest shelter, she paid with her body. Today, Loveness is HIV positive. The urban community gardens are managed by the Gwiru Women's AIDS Prevention Association. The plots of land help the women out of prostitution, while at the same time provide them with food and some income.
We'll benefit from the garden because we'll get some produce. We'll use them for food, and the other we'll sell and get money.
But the project doesn't just aim to help sex workers. Widows, single mothers, orphans and vulnerable children with HIV and AIDS also benefit. The council in Gwiru has allocated land to the women on a long-term lease. It means they can use it for up to 30 years.
We're targeting the sex workers because of the risk of the business which they are in. And we are also fighting the HIV and AIDS. And there's no way we can eradicate HIV and AIDS or reduce the incidences of HIV and AIDS or infections without targeting them. Because one of the most things which we have to take care of is to look at the key drivers of HIV and AIDS.
Life was not easy there because I had no information about HIV and AIDS or any other type of STIs. So whenever a man paid me to go with me, I could give him all the right to do whatever he liked with me. Some would refuse to use condoms, so most times I could practice unsafe sex. So a few months after I've started going to nightclubs, I contracted some STIs.
The fate of Zimbabwe's sex workers is similar to that of millions of Africans. Sub-Saharan Africa has the largest number of AIDS victims in the world. At least 22 million people are estimated to have contracted the virus, but there are fears that figure could be much worse. Some experts estimate there may be as many as 30 million HIV/AIDS sufferers on the continent. But there could be some light at the end of the tunnel. The World Health Organization says since 2000, nearly 860,000 HIV infections have been prevented in Zimbabwe, but a lot of work still needs to be done.
It's a humanitarian issue because people have been affected by a lot of socioeconomic problems. I mean, since 2000, we've had the usual problems, the land reforms, the governance issues that have affected people, and more so some of the people that are here. And also we've got health problems, the HIV and AIDS, the decline in the health system, especially in the urban areas.
A decade ago, Zimbabwe's adult HIV prevalence rate hit 33%, but prevention workers helped stem the tide. Today, an estimated 14% of Zimbabwean adults are HIV positive, still a worrying figure, but much less than 10 years ago. The women taking part in the project are able to sell their crops in one of the many markets of Gwiru. Although plentiful, the food, priced in US dollars, is often expensive for many poor Zimbabweans. Gwiru City Council is backing the project.
The people here are going to get better returns in that they are no longer going to order their wares from outside the city where they have to pay transport costs. Those who are going to buy are going to get them at lower prices. And what's going to happen is then food becomes available. It becomes accessible to all families.
Difficult access to regional markets is a major problem for rural producers, a driving force for migration. In Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, an estimated 1.6 million Zimbabweans are currently living with HIV, including some 120,000 children. Early morning and the market is already crowded. Many vegetable and fruit sellers have driven throughout the night to sell their produce. But the busy trading and hustle and bustle hides the shocking statistic that 1 in every 3 children are chronically malnourished in Zimbabwe. Once Africa's breadbasket, now nearly 12,000 infants under the age of 5 die here from malnutrition. In the suburbs of Harare, the UN manages a food and agricultural facility. Here, seeds and fertiliser from the EU are transported to small farmers in rural areas. Those who have lost a parent from HIV are top of the priority list.
Our target is those people that have got the land but do not have the cash, the income, to be able to purchase these inputs. So without this kind of assistance, these people would be stranded.
More than 10% of small farmers in Zimbabwe receive maize and fertiliser. Leaving Harare, we head eastward to a rural area just outside the small provincial town of Mutoko. Here, Distribution Day is celebrated by the entire rural community. Members of a local theatre group perform a play about the risks of HIV. It's estimated some 3,000 people die every week in Zimbabwe from HIV/AIDS, adding to the 1.3 million orphans who have lost one or both parents to the disease. Surveys in Zimbabwe show that a drop in casual sex, extramarital partners, paying for sex and higher condom use have led to a decline in the infection rate. Back in Guiro, former sex worker Loveness invites us into her home, which she shares with several others. It is still painful for her to remember her recent past.
It wasn't my choice, but I had 2 children who were going to school. They needed food. It's a very complicated life because during commercial sex work, you can be harassed by men, you can be tortured, you can be harassed even by the policemen again. They can get you